Welcome to the Probate Nation. My name is Richard Ruddy. Years ago, as Mom aged and needed more care with day-to-day activities, she would leave her home and move in with a child and her family. This allowed the family to directly oversee her care. But as more and more seniors strive to age in place at home, and with families scattered across the state and the country, that has changed dramatically. Today, families are managing that care by hiring caregivers to help with the daily care of Mom in her home. And with the demand for caregivers continuing to rise, this has become a difficult undertaking in two ways: finding a caregiver that is available, and more importantly, finding a caregiver that is a good fit. Our guest tonight is a VP with the Northern Virginia office of the National Caregiver Agency. He will share with us his insights, experiences, and suggestions on how to find and hire a caregiver for your loved one. Our guest is a graduate of the University of Maryland and George Mason University. He has worked in the healthcare industry for over 20 years. Presently, he is Vice President of HomeCare.com, a private duty national home care agency. In that position, he collaborates with regional hospitals, rehab facilities, and assisted living homes to help families navigate the ever-changing healthcare system and provide options for healthcare at home. In his free time, he supports his daughter at her competitive cheer competitions and officiates basketball at local Northern Virginia high schools and nationally for the Big Three. Please welcome David Posner from HomeCare.com. I was always impressed by that fact that you're referring with Big Three.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's really quite interesting.
It's a nice little fun side
It's
job.
a big difference from home care work, though.
Oh, it's a much different.
But on to our program, though. You know, Mom's been released from the hospital or from a rehab facility and following some medical event and is now being returned home. So who alerts the family that Mom is coming home?
Yeah, and this is kind of how we start most of our cases, most of our families. They're in a hospital, they're in a rehab, and two things need to happen, essentially. So number one is the mom has kind of met insurance deductible or insurance limit. The second thing is the discharge planner or social worker that's working with her said that she's met some criteria or she's progressed to a certain area. So it's usually the discharge planner or social worker who's going to let Mom know, say, hey, you're going to being discharged in 2 or 3 days. Mm-hmm. Which is how it sets it up.
So what are some of the issues to review before Mom comes home that you would review?
Yeah, so and the social worker as well. So one of the things they're going to do before they allow Mom to actually go home is they're going to check out what Mom's home situation is set up. Does she have family around to be able to help her? Is she going to be able to drive to get her medications and get her groceries? All the things that are going to prevent her from going back to the hospital are all the things that they're going to review and that we would review first. Just the biggest thing is just making sure that she's going to be safe when she discharges home.
Okay. Now, so let's turn to, I know we talked about this, but there's what we call the red flags. So how do you know when Mom needs one-on-one care?
Yeah, so I call them my red flag situations because these are things that you might notice when you go home and you start to see Mom. Maybe you go for a weekend or birthday or something like that. Things to look for are changing conditions, right? So has she lost weight? Has she gained weight? How about the body odor? Has she looked like she hasn't cleaned up in a few days? Are there pill boxes either missing or full that she hasn't taken or has taken? Look around the house. Is there mail starting to pile up because she's forgetting to do the mail? Or maybe she used to be super clean and now there's clothes all over the place. So there's different things that you can start to look for that aren't normal that you might want to be, this is a little bit of a change or a red flag situation that might need some home care assistance.
Sure. Yeah, I know we talk about the finances. I remember early on in my career, someone passed away, and when they went in to find the house, of course it was cluttered, they found, I think, over $50,000 of undeposited Social Security checks. So that dining room table starts to get pretty piled high. You know you need to take care of some things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, one of the big challenges is that we have a lot of people who are very independent and have been independent most of their life. So how do we convince Mom that she needs home care?
This is the number one challenge that I face, and I think a lot of what I like to call adult children face. Mama's, as you mentioned, Mama's always been independent. Dad's always been very independent. They come from a generation where they never needed any help. And a lot of times the kids can't even provide help or have tried in the past and can't provide help. So number one question I always get asked is, well, Mom's not going to want someone in the house. How do we convince her otherwise? And the truth of the matter is, I come up with 3 different ideas. Number one is make it a test. Let's just try, hey mom, we're just going to try somebody out for a couple days and we'll just see what happens. It's not long term, we're just going to do a trial for 2 or 3 days and then we'll make some decisions. Mm-hmm. Number 2 is plea on the children. Hey mom, this isn't for you, this is for me, so I can sleep at night. I'm worried about you day in and day out. I need to be able to sleep at night. If you would have this caregiver in here for a couple days, that'd make me feel better. And lastly is maybe a little trickery, but you kind of say, hey mom, this caregiver's not for you, it's for the dog. Or hey, we just want to have someone come in and check up on the house every now and then. And so we've tried a bunch of different ways to be able to make sure that mom is safe at home, and a couple different tips and tactics we can try to get somebody in the house to see her.
So do you find that you have a harder challenge convincing a dad to take the care than a mom? And I don't mean to make that, but I'm being realistic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've definitely seen that males are a little bit more stubborn. They definitely don't think they help. At least, it seems like females will, try to get a neighbor or something like that over. But males are a little bit tougher. They think they can do everything on their own, and they've always been the leader of the house and don't need any extra help. It's a little bit tougher for males. Same three things work for males. And sometimes it's a matter of having a professional like myself come in and talk from a business point of view of these are the things that we're doing, this is reason why, and this is the outcome we hope to get. So a little bit of a change for a male, but yeah, males are definitely a little bit tougher.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about the services that caregivers provide. We've done prior shows, and it's actually, it's a wide range of different things that can be done or cannot be done, depending upon who it is. So tell me, what types of services are provided by caregivers typically?
Yeah, so there's 3 different types of services. So on the basic end would be just companionship. One step up from there is maybe we call it like homemaking or doing like IADLs or independent activities. Mm-hmm. And then the highest level is a professional CNA, certified nursing aide, that's going to be doing personal services, personal care services.
Okay. So what does the personal care cover?
Yeah, so personal care is, we follow something called ADLs, or Activities of Daily Living. Mm-hmm. As an attorney yourself, I'm sure you're very aware of ADLs.
IADLs, absolutely.
IADLs and ADLs, and especially when we're talking about long-term care insurance and veterans benefits, these are the things that they want to make sure are done every single day. So ADLs include activities of daily living, so it might be bathing, it might be toileting, it might be dressing, something that the caregiver is what we call hands-on, physically helping your loved one out, getting them dressed in the morning, so on and so forth.
Sure. And so we move down to homemaking. What does homemaking cover?
Yeah, so a little bit less. So when we talk about IADLs, or like independent assisted daily living, I think I'm saying that right, sorry. Now, these are things that can go along in the house. So a lot of families might ask us, what is the caregiver going to do all day? And that's where these come in. And a homemaker can help out with laundry. So if mom just had hip surgery, instead of her trying to bring up the laundry up the stairs, a caregiver can bring in the laundry. Maybe it's medications, making sure that she takes her medications every single day, maybe lunch and dinner, and also making meals. So if she's on a dietary restriction of low salt or more water or something like that, a caregiver can help with making sure that she gets her meals every single day, as well as taking her to the grocery store, picking up medication, and just overall helping around the house.
Now, they can't administer medication, but they can make it available.
That's correct. They cannot
bring them the pill box and all that kind of stuff. Get that organized. Exactly.
They can make it organized. They can show it to them. But they cannot insert it. They cannot inject anything. They can't make them swallow. All they can do is present it to them and make sure it's ready.
Sure. That was one of the things I think was very important to understand for folks. What does companionship care cover then?
Yeah, companionship's kind of on the most basic end, and it's exactly that, companionship. So if mom lives alone and having someone to kind of read to her, maybe play board games, or just go for walks.
Okay.
So simple companionship.
That's nice. So what are some of the things, I think I know the answer, but that caregivers do not do, and I guess the one thing I do know is they don't administer medicine.
That's right. That's the major difference between what home care and maybe something like home health or skilled care.
Okay.
And skilled care is where you're talking more on something medical. And that's the stuff that's covered by insurance. So when we talk about administering medication, when we talk about therapy, when we talk about moving someone or helping with wheelchairs or something like that, that's medical, that's covered by insurance. Ours is considered non-medical, private duty, again, basic ADLs, IADLs, bathing, toileting, dressing type stuff.
Okay. So let's talk about finding a caregiver. So, we're going to have a whole conversation here about whether you should find the person yourself or whether you should hire somebody and so on. But let's just begin with, how do we typically find a caregiver?
Yeah, so the great thing in Fairfax County is there's lots of caregiving companies and several, about 3,000 to 5,000 caregivers out there and available.
Okay.
So there's plenty of, Fairfax County has wealth of caregivers that are available. When we start to look, there's a great resource called the Source Book that you can pick up at a lot of CVS's and grocery stores. And then there's also going online to find out, doing a search for caregiver or home health aide or something like that.
Okay. So if you are going to do it yourself, okay, you mentioned that. So, if you're doing this, how do you proceed as far as, figuring out who to hire?
Yes. Yeah, and question, and this would, a lot of my similar answers would be if you go with a company or not. But when you start going on, the most important thing is that mom is going to be safe at home. And when I say mom, I also mean dad. But mom is safe at home. And so we want to check the credentials. We want to see if this person is a CNA, Certified Nursing Aide, which is a license, a home health aide, PCA, personal care aide. So we want to check to make sure that person is licensed. We want to see if they have any additional certifications, maybe first aid. And then we want to be able to check for references. And we also want to make sure we go through what we need. So when we're talking to the caregiver, we want to talk about what we need. So if mom has dementia, we want to make sure that the caregiver understands dementia, knows how to work with it. We might give an example of mom tries to wander out at 6 o'clock at night every night. How are you going to help her with that? How are you going to dissuade her from wandering away? Maybe mom has Parkinson's. Do you understand what the shakes look like? Do you understand how important it is that she gets her medication on time? So when you're interviewing a caregiver, you might want to go through different scenarios that happen and find out how the caregiver reacts.
Okay.
And the most important thing is just going over a schedule. So if you need a caregiver to be there exactly at 9 a.m. and leave at 5 p.m. because you're going to work, you make sure that you review that with the caregiver so they know how important it is that they arrive on time, leave on time, and so on and so forth.
So in that regard, it's important to understand where they live.
Exactly.
How they're going to get to and from so that we don't have a problem as far as transportation.
Especially here in DC.
Of course.
Yeah, traffic, it comes up, so absolutely.
So I know I know you mentioned, the Source Book. I suppose elder law attorneys, are they a good resource?
Elder law attorneys is an excellent resource. They seem to know, a lot of the different companies, they work with them, money managers, also other, assisted livings. The great thing about the senior care is there's a lot of different opportunities to be able to partner up. Elder law attorneys, especially because, they might have cases that involve a caregiver or a case manager. So absolutely.
Okay. So, so let's just say I decide I don't want to do it myself. And
smart man.
Yes. But so I want to go hire a home care company. So what questions or information should I focus on as I begin to talk to these companies?
Absolutely. So, one of the things you want to look for is a reputable company. So, there's a lot of reviews on Google and Facebook and caring.com. So you want to make sure that you find a reputable company. If you can get a referral from one of the people I mentioned earlier, elder law attorneys, that would be excellent as well. When you start to talk to the companies, again, same scenario. You want to go through what's going on with mom. I need a caregiver at night. I need a caregiver that understands dementia. I need a caregiver that can get to the city of Fairfax. We want to talk about schedules. Can they handle that certain types of schedule? The other important thing when we talk about working with agencies and companies is backup. Does the company have enough caregivers that if a caregiver no-shows, what happens? Are they immediately able to send a caregiver out there, or are they going to have to wait? The second question is, are you going to be able to get a consistent caregiver? Will the same caregiver come every single day, or will it be a different type of caregiver every day? And then lastly, you want to find out about costs. Because the companies vary so much, companies do vary in cost, so you want to find out what their cost is. Most companies base the cost off of 3 factors. That's schedule, needs, and location. So again, if we're talking about City of Fairfax, dementia at night, might be 5 nights a week, might be different than a bath visit or transportation twice a week in Alexandria. So those things all matter.
Okay. So what are the advantages of hiring a home care company as opposed to trying to just hire someone directly yourself?
The biggest advantage is kind of what we talked about as far as the backup. When you go out on your own, if you've got that one caregiver and she, as most of the caregivers are female, if they can't get there because of a car or family incident, you don't really have a backup. So the biggest benefit of a home care agency, home care company, is that you have backup available. The other thing you have is when you talk about insurance. Most of the companies are insured, at least at the state level, federal level. So they're insured if something happens in the home, happens to the caregiver, or happens to your mom. They're also doing that same things for the caregivers, which is extremely important. We're doing so each of the caregivers, all the companies, have to do a full background check. In the state of Virginia, have to do a police check. We're also doing TB. A lot of companies now, with COVID, are making sure that the caregivers have PPEs and masks, making sure that they get their COVID tests, and then finally, taxes and oversight and everything else.
So there's a lot to be done that is being done behind the scenes.
Yes, there's a lot.
So when that person shows up at the front door, there's a whole battery of things that have been taken care of.
Exactly, and because this is someone that's going into the family members' homes, it's really important that we're sending someone that has experience and that has been fully checked, because we don't want an incident. We don't want to have to call an attorney to start.
Why not?
We've had to, but unfortunately, the goal is that we get someone that actually works well with mom, and then we can make that connection.
So what are the challenges, though, a home care agency faces in placing a caregiver in the home?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest challenges is just making sure there's a match.
Okay.
And so that's why communication is so important. Some family members want a caregiver to do everything. As I mentioned, bathing, toileting, dressing, meals, something like that. Other families just want a caregiver just to make sure mom just sits there and is safe. And so communication is extremely important, and matching up based off of the personality. Because just like different family members, we have caregivers that love to work in a community. We have caregivers that like to work at home. We have caregivers that like to work with dementia, and we have caregivers that when I say we, companies in general all have caregivers that like to work in certain segments. And so finding the right caregiver in the right situation with the right schedule is key.
Now, certainly I would think that some of the challenges are that you have family that's overseeing you, what
Yes.
you're doing. So what are the challenges of dealing with the family when you have maybe multiple decision makers who are working with you?
Yeah, so there's a lot of times that the siblings have different goals for mom. When she gets into the hospital or rehab, some are immediately thinking, want to go to assisted living. Some are thinking, send her home. Some are like, I'll take care of mom. So you've got a lot of different dynamics. And, for a home care company, it's really important to make sure we all get on the same page and that we communicate as, exactly what's the best thing for mom. Mm-hmm. And, the nice thing is we can try different things. And coming home with a home care aide is probably the easiest. We can always go to assisted living later. We can always, try a family member later. But when mom comes home from the hospital or rehab, that first 3 days are extremely important because that's the days that she's most likely to return. If she's not taking her medication in time, she's in a new environment and she happens to have a fall because she's just had hip surgery and she falls over a rug. So working with a home care company to make sure you have the right person in there is extremely important, and making sure that all the family members are aware of what's going on. One of the biggest tips I give to the families is, at the end of this shift, have the caregiver, put some information on a journal. And so that way everyone knows exactly what's going on.
So I know with technology nowadays as well, I think certainly Zoom, it can be a good
Yeah.
tool to kind of get everybody so you can update them periodically about what's going on. Of course, they can always do a Zoom call with mom and see mom or at least see her. And I know you mentioned that, preparing for this show that a care manager sometimes can be brought in to be kind of the quarterback for other things beyond what the home care company is doing.
Yeah, so there's some amazing things going on with technology today. And Zoom calls are a great way of being able to get family members who might not be local to be able to kind of get on the same page. Other things as far as being able to, so for those that have children and might get like little photos of how mom did for the day, there's the same thing with technology that you're able to send out like little messages. Hey, from the caregiver that says, hey, took mom to the doctor's today, or hey, mom and I went for a 2-mile walk, something like that. Now, you mentioned care managers, and they're another great advocate because especially when family members aren't local, a care manager, and strongly recommend those that are approved by the Elder Life Care Management Association, they're able to do all of that as far as communicate with the family and the caregiver. They're able to kind of go to see doctor's visit. They go on doctor's visit, so you have someone who's maybe a social worker or a nurse be able to do some type of oversight. They can also help with tours to assisted livings, and overall, especially here in Fairfax County, there's some great care management associations and groups that we partner up with to make that transition and make everything work well for the family. There are so many different aspects in senior care, from care managers, hospice, home health, assisted livings, that sometimes the care manager is great at being able to coordinate all of it, or even just working with a home care company that can help make sure that we're all on the same page.
That's good. So does insurance pay for home care?
Unfortunately not.
Because that's kind of the million-dollar question.
That is the million-dollar question. That is the million-dollar question. Now, long-term care insurance does. So something like Genworth or John Hancock, long-term care insurance does pay for care. Or veterans, VA benefits. And we work with both types of groups. But about 80% of our family members are paying out of pocket. And out of pocket in the Fairfax area, according to the Genworth study, is about $25 to $28 an hour, depending again on schedule, needs, and service.
So we're running out of time here, so very quickly, what are some of the common mistakes that people make in either hiring a caregiver themselves or hiring a home care company?
I think the number one biggest mistake is just communication. You've got to be able to tell the company or the caregiver you're working with exactly what's going on. Don't assume that the caregiver is going to walk in and know exactly what to do. Communicate with the caregiver that's in the home and say, I need mom to take her medications at 3 o'clock, I need her to be showered by 6, and I need her to be in bed by 8. So communication is the number one key. And number two is as I mentioned earlier, just doing a background check and understanding who you're working with, either from the caregiver's point of view or the company's point of view.
Okay. Well, we are really at the end of our time, so can you share some final thoughts, some advice, practical suggestions for folks who are being asked to go find someone to take care of mom? Because again, most people want to stay in their home these days, and so home care services are very, very important.
Yeah, they are, and they're a great hidden gem of the senior care. And these caregivers are fantastic, and they really do care for mom, and they're able to communicate. And if you're thinking about trying a caregiver, or if you need one or not, I strongly recommend you call up one of the companies and just start finding out more and more about them. The caregivers can do a lot of things, and they're great. There's some great caregivers out there that be able to help out. And then lastly, when we talk about in the home, have that caregiver write a journal so they know exactly what's going on day in and day out.
David, a lot of great information, and thank you so much for taking the time. You're a great resource for the community, and we thank you for doing all the things you do for Northern Virginia.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today. I enjoyed it.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. One of the most common requests from the elderly to their family an agent under an advanced medical directive or a court-appointed guardian is that they would be allowed to live in their home as long as possible. Our show this evening illustrates how a caregiver may be able to help your loved one live in the home safely and have as fulfilling and rich a life as possible during their senior years. Many folks try to hire a caregiver privately. As we learned from our guest, there is much to consider and investigate before you make that hiring decision. And there are risks in relying on a single caregiver. Using a caregiver placement agency in the business of finding, training, bonding, and managing caring people to be qualified caregivers is an excellent solution. We encourage you to pursue this solution if you need a caregiver for a loved one. This brings us to the conclusion of our show this evening on elder care, home care management. We hope you found it helpful. Replays of this show and all the shows broadcast to date, along with other helpful information, can be viewed on the Probate Nation website. On behalf of the Probate Nation, thank you for visiting with us.